Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. More Christmas cards. It's always my goal to do at least 25 videos for my holiday series. And this is number 25. I might still have more, we'll see. Because now I'm kind of working on making for next year. So, I pulled out the Honeybee Stamps, Lovely Layers, Winter Birds wafer die set. This one's been incredibly popular. With good reason, it's fabulous. So I haven't used it because it just keeps selling out before I even get a chance to think. I know it's in stock as of doing this voiceover. It's probably going to sell out again. They'll restock it because again, it's just a beautiful set. So I only use the Winter Cardinal from this set. Today's cards are for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. I'll have a link to that in the blog post that'll be linked directly below the video. So just like all of Honeybee's other Lovely Layers die sets, this one comes together with zero effort. It's just, like I keep saying, largest to smallest, basically all you need to do. It's simple, like so simple. So I die cut the layers from just various scraps of red cardstock. And then the little facial features and the feet I did black, and then his beak I just did an orange. And yeah. You don't even need a guide with this, honestly. It just, largest piece to smallest piece, the facial piece, it just fits, everything just works. His feet, I discovered there's actually two different shaped pieces. So that even makes it easier. It's like, oh, boop, pop that into place, pop that one into place. And then his little eye, which you can't really see on camera, but I'm going to emphasize that at the end so it stands out a little bit more. So I did that 3 times. And then I also pulled out the Kaleidoscope embossing folder. And with Honeybee's embossing folder, what works best is with my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine is I have the new set of plates. I have the base plate A, the folder with the cardstock, which I've sprayed with water because it just gives you a better impression. And then the D plate, the adapter plate. That's like the perfect sandwich for this. So, as always, depending on what machine you have, what plates you have, sometimes you just got to fiddle, using maybe some shims of cardstock or, yeah, you just figured out. But this is the one that I figured out worked perfectly for these folders. And then adding the little, the light mist of water, it just gives a better impression. And also helps alleviate the chances of the cardstock cracking because I'm using pretty heavyweight. I'm using Simon's 120-pound white cardstock for this. So I did that process and embossed these panels of cardstock. And then I set those aside because they need a little bit of time to dry because they've been sprayed with water. So I set those aside. And I have just some scraps of white cardstock here. This is why I save all my scraps. They're perfect, even these little thin pieces. So I have a scrap of cardstock in my MISTI, and I'm using sentiments from the Let Nature Sing stamp set, which coordinates with the Lovely Layers Winter Birds wafer die set. So I picked out the sentiment I want to use on the front of the cards, and I used my anti-static powder tool. After I'd lined up the stamp, inked up the stamp with clear embossing ink, coating that with some Simon's gold embossing powder. And then this piece of cardstock, I'm just flipping around and I'm going to stamp it a second time, add the embossing powder. Off camera, I'll do it a third time. So I'll have 3 sentiments. And once these are coated with the embossing powder, melt that with my heat tool. So let the heat tool heat up for a couple seconds, melt that with my heat tool till everything is smooth and melted. Like I always do, tilt it back and forth in the light. Make sure there's no little grainy areas. So get those melted. And then I'm going to use the coordinating wafer dies to die cut these sentiments because I love the coordinating wafer dies for sentiments. It just, especially ones like this where it really it cuts right around those sentiments and even the little tiny bit in the middle. And I was like, yas. So I die cut all the sentiments. And then I have my card bases. While I have my MISTI out, I have my card bases here. These are going to be top folding A2 white note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5. And I've got them in my MISTI, and I have another sentiment from the Let Nature Sing set. This is the Seasons Tweetings sentiment. Love it. You guys know, I love punny sentiments, and it's just cute. So these I'm inking up with Simon's Schoolhouse Red ink and stamping that onto the inside of all these cards. And then by now my embossed backgrounds are dry. So I am trimming them down with my guillotine trimmer. Just trimming these down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, like my go-to like size for most A2 cards. So I trimmed all those down. And then again, off camera, I had done a bunch of die cutting. I'd actually shown this in a previous video. I have like a container, like a muffin tin with a ton of die cuts from the Honeybee's Lovely Layers Winter Greenery set, because I die cut a ton. So many, because they've just come in handy for so many different cards and whatnot. So the only extra die cutting I did is I die cut some gold glitter paper and some black cardstock with some of these dies, because for this color challenge. And then the other thing I did is, since I'm doing multiples, I like to, off camera, I'll sit and fiddle and I'll, figure out my layout, because it's not my forte with like greenery or floral arrangements. So I'll like figure it out. So I had like done a layout. Once I was happy with it, I just repeated the process on the other 2 card fronts, got everything adhered, and now you're just seeing me do the final one. So this comes together just smoothly, as if, I know everything, where it's all going. Yeah, because I had figured it out off camera. Took the time to like sit and fiddle, and it's like, where should this go? So now I'm just adhering everything into place based on the other one. And off camera, I pulled off their feet. This sounds bad, but I pulled off the Cardinal's feet. In the grand scheme of things with these specific cards, it probably wouldn't have mattered, because this branch I die cut from black cardstock. So I don't think it honestly wouldn't, like, anyone would even have noticed whether I did this or not. But because I get a little OCD about things, I pulled the feet off and then adhered the branch. And then I'm going to adhere the feet on top. So, it looks like it's sitting there. But again, with this, it's such a subtle thing that it probably wouldn't matter. If the branch was like a brown cardstock or just a lighter cardstock, it would probably be more noticeable. But with this, I'm like, but I did it anyway, just because it had to be done like properly. So after I had everything adhered, I was using my reverse tweezers to hold that one end, the right side of that branch, down to the cardstock, just so that the glue could dry. And then all little berries, again, had a little pile of these all die cut in different colors of red cardstock. So I adhered those all over the branch to give it that little extra something, all these little pops of red. So I just adhered those with dabs of craft tacky glue, and I was just picking up the pieces with my little embellishment wand. And then once I had all of those adhered into place, I am going to use some foam tape for my sentiments. And I had mentioned this in a previous video about how I loved my like Doris foam strips that were amazing, and how sad I was that you can no longer get those because Michael's bought out Doris and shut down the line. So whatever. And then someone commented, they were like, oh, Waffle Flower has foam strips. And this was a little like duh moment for me. I was like, I have those foam strips. I just didn't have them stored with the rest of my foam adhesive. I had them stored, so yeah, I've had these like for a while, and they're great. You get, with these thinner ones, you get 3 full sheets, and they're like, I don't know what size. What size is this? This is like 5.5 by 9 inches or something, like 6 by 9 inches roughly of these foam strips, and you get 3 sheets of them in the pack, and they're in varying widths too. So, and there's also even like I think an A2 frame. Like, they're awesome. Highly recommend. They've been out for forever, and I think I might have actually even shown these in a video like forever ago, and then I forgot about them because that's just what I do. So they're great. Highly recommend. So I use the foam strips to adhere the sentiments to these cards, because they're going over like all that dimension and everything, because usually I'll just die cut more layers from the same coordinating wafer die of the sentiment, but because these are going on top of like all the like varying heights of all these die cut pieces, I'd use the foam strips on either end, got those into place. Once everything was adhered, I used my white gel pen to add little highlights to the eyes and the beak, just to give them that little extra something. And then as my final little like way to kind of zhuzh these up, I'm adding glossy accents to the berries. You could stop with just glossy accents. That would look great. But I wanted to give them a little extra something. So I applied the glossy accents to all these little die cut berries. And then I used Distress Rock Candy glitter. And I'm just going to kind of pour that over the berries over a coffee filter here. Just using my little tonic spoon. You could technically dump the container too, but I was like, I don't need to dump out that much glitter. So just poured it over. And the beautiful thing with this is when it dries, it looks like frosty or almost like sugar. Like hence the name rock candy, obviously. But I didn't want them to be like sparkly because I had the, the gold glitter die cuts as well. So I didn't want it to be just too busy. So this just gives it that little, like, it gives it extra texture and dimension and a bit of sparkle without being crazy. And I can't speak to other, I can speak to other brands of glitter. I've used like pretty much every brand of glitter on the face of the planet, between card making and crafts. And I used to own a salon and do nail art, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Tim Holtz is not lying when he says there is something that Ranger does, and I don't know what it is, that makes rock candy distress glitter not staticky, but they're not lying. I don't know what it is they do. I honestly don't know. But I've noticed it over all these years of using this glitter. It is not staticky like other dry glitters. Because again, if you've worked with dry glitters, it just goes it clings to everything. And I know some people hate glitter. I get it. I hear you. But this stuff's not like that. It's just, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what it is. I would love to know. Because I wonder, would it work with other glitters? Whatever magic they do, please teach me. But anyway, after I had poured it on there, I funnel back the glitter back into its container. I put the lid on because even though it's not staticky, you still don't want to knock over a container that's like the equivalent of like, what, half a cup at least of dry glitter. So I'm going to it's not dry yet. You will notice even with the glitter on top of it, glossy accents take some time to dry. It'll go from looking cloudy to completely clear, even through the glitter. Because even with the glitter on it, it almost looks a little bit cloudy. So I left these overnight just to make sure everything was like dry. Because I am really bad for like, I'll stick my finger, I'll poke at it or I'll set my elbow on it or something stupid. So I let them completely dry. Once they were dry, I take my big old Tonic fan brush and I brush over these thoroughly just to remove any little bit of excess glitter that might have been sticking to, different little areas. And again, unlike other glitters, this stuff there isn't a whole lot of excess, but yeah, whatever was there brushes off no problem. So I brushed that off. I had added some gold rhinestones from Studio Katia just to tie in a little bit more gold, add a little bit more bling, and that finished these cards off. So I've got these adorable like cardinals and like the berries and the embossed background and the gold and the glitter and the shiny. Really, I need to like someone needs to make me a magpie wafer die. I'll be my mascot because that's basically what I am. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list. I will link to all the supplies I use, so you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos. Thumbs up, comment, subscribe if you haven't. I'd very much appreciate it. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.